Have you ever felt that, unsettling distance between who you are today and the person you want to become? Listen, I've been there too. In this wild journey that we call life, there are moments and even seasons when that gap widens and the way forward seems very, daunting. The gap can feel overwhelming and even paralyzing. So, if that's you and you're feeling stuck or far away from your goals, I really want to remind you of these 7 things. Okay, wait. Before we get into these 7 things, listen, filming this little intro could not have been more perfect for this video because although I could have edited it to look seamless and perfect and beautiful and inspiring, but instead, so many things just went wrong. I didn't want to edit it out because I wanted you to see how sometimes it's like you have in your mind what you've envisioned, and sometimes reality can just be like such a slap in the face that you're not there yet. And so I just want this video to encourage you in the middle, in that becoming space. Yeah, so we're gonna get right into it. Number 1, pay attention to your thought patterns. So we can control every single thought that comes into our head all the time, but we can control what gets to stick around and feel comfortable and what patterns we're forging in our minds. So thoughts are powerful. You know the saying, thoughts become words, words become actions, actions become your character. So your thoughts, whether you like it or not, are helping to shape your mood, your days, the actions you take or don't take. Our minds, by default, they're trying to keep us small. They're trying to protect you from danger and what it perceives as danger. So it's important that you're paying attention to that pattern because it will talk you right out of the action you're trying to take. It'll talk you right out of the thing that God told you. And so you want to pay attention to what it is that you're thinking. And, if it's unfruitful, if it's unproductive thinking, you want to get really good at stopping it right in its tracks and speaking the truth. The words you speak out loud are so much more powerful than the lies whispered in your mind. All right, reminder number 2, stop playing safe. As I just said, our minds are trying to keep us safe. But guess what? In becoming, in changing, in growing, that happens outside our comfort zone. Maybe you're not experiencing forward movement or the growth that you're wanting to see because you're wanting that growth and you desire it, but you're trying to do it in your comfort zone. It's uncomfortable. And so you have to embrace that discomfort. And this quote, my goodness, it's so good. So this quote is by Dr. Henry Cloud from the book Boundaries. It says, "We change our behavior when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing." Isn't that so good? Consequences give us the pain that motivates us to change. So yeah, there's going to be pain either way. Ask yourself, do you prefer the pain of staying the same, staying stuck, or will you just embrace the pain of change, of challenging yourself, of growing and going beyond your comfort zone? Number 3, you have to have eyes of faith. So faith is described in Hebrews 11:1 as confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. You hear themes of we walk by faith, not by sight, all of these different things. So faith essentially is acting and operating in what is true before you can actually see it. What the world calls delusion is actually faith. Now, you do want to make sure that what you're having faith in and what you're holding faith in actually is true, but know that you don't need to see it before you operate and act in accordance to what you know is true. Having eyes of faith is understanding that everything we see was first a thought, was first an idea. Even like the mug, I'll put a little B-roll of it right here. But the mug that I created, before it was this physical mug that I made, it was an idea, it was a thought in my head. And I think one of the things that we've been given that we underestimate often is our imagination. We have the power of imagining, of closing our eyes and picturing realities that haven't yet happened, of thinking of solutions and creative ideas, of strategies of how we would respond in different scenarios. We have the power of imagining something before it even happens. All that to say is you don't have to wait to see it. Like, you can imagine it, and like I said, you can have eyes of faith and take action. Faith and action, they work together. So taking appropriate action based on the truth and not just waiting to see it. Okay, number 4, create a bridge, not a tightrope. So picture there's that huge gap we're talking about, okay? And we're talking about kind of bridging that gap. A tightrope is when you have this like beautiful, perfect plan. But if one thing goes wrong, if one thing doesn't happen the way you planned, you fall off. You are creating such a narrow tightrope that had no margin for error. It wasn't flexible, and that's just not realistic because we are dynamic. Life is dynamic. We can't control everything that happens to us. We can't control, the disruptions sometimes that happen in our day. So when it comes to goal setting and the desired outcome that you have, don't make it such a narrow, rigid plan. Allow for flexibility. Allow for experimentation. Don't see it as a failure. See it as a lesson learned. Don't see it as, oh, this didn't work. Okay, forget it. I'm just not even going to attempt. No, that didn't work. Why? Get curious and creative about all the ways you can reach your desired end. If it's not working for you, change the method. You can change the method without quitting the entire goal. Number 5, give your feelings their rightful place. So I believe that place is not in the driver's seat where it's your feelings are dictating everything you do or don't do. If you do that, because our feelings go up and down, they fluctuate, they change. They're indicators. I say this often. Our feelings are indicators pointing to a deeper reality. They're informing us, but they're not meant to dictate everything we do or don't do, or else we're going to be inconsistent because our feelings are also inconsistent. At the same time, we don't want to put them in the trunk where we are ignoring them, brushing them off, sweeping them under a rug, because guess what? They're trying to tell us something. So rather than just ignore it and not want to deal with it, interview it. What is this telling me? Where is this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? That's probably one of the reasons, honestly, that I wasn't, consistent on YouTube or consistent with my, health regimen, is because I was putting too much emphasis on how I felt, like feeling motivated, feeling inspired, all these things that come and go quickly. So instead of relying on those feelings to be the benchmark of what I do or don't do, I just have to make a decisive choice on what I'm going to do, what actions I'm going to commit to, despite how I feel. Use wisdom. Anyway, y'all are grown. Use wisdom, okay? Use wisdom. There's times where our bodies are trying to tell us something. Cue my Shrek era. That's what I call it. Because me saying yes to everything and not listening to those indicators caused me to look like this. Yeah, that's a whole other video. Which also brings me to the next point. What a perfect segue. I actually did not plan that because I didn't plan to share that story. But it really does segue well into the next point, which is to set boundaries. You have to set boundaries. I have a whole video on this if this concept is new to you. But you have to protect your yes. If you are a people pleaser, it's going to be very difficult to become who you know you're meant to be if you are constantly at the whim of everyone else's desire for you. If you're constantly saying yes to all these different things and not protecting what it is that you know you're meant to be saying yes to. When you say yes, you're also saying no to something. So make sure you understand what it is you're saying no to. We talk a lot about time management, but don't forget there's energy management as well. Your energy isn't the same throughout the entire day. And so a great thing is to do your most important things first. I got this analogy from the book 4% Fix, but basically it's the difference between, you cut your desired slice of cake first thing in the morning, and then the rest gets taken throughout the day, and you're fine because you already carved out your special piece at the beginning of the day. It's done. It was protected. Nothing can take away from that. Rather than you have the cake first thing in the morning. Maybe the first thing you do is scroll on Instagram. Okay, that just took a chunk of time. Now, you got to take care of your kids, or something's come up with family and work, and everything's taking a piece of the pie. And then by the end of the day, you're left with crumbs for the thing that's most important, and you're depleted and you feel like you have nothing left to give. So it's reordering that. And number 7, take inventory of what you do have. So it's so easy for us, especially when we're thinking about, who we're becoming and, our goals and all these different things, to focus on the future, right? But in doing that, we can neglect what we do have presently. Use what you got until you got what you want, okay? One of the biggest lies you can tell yourself is, when I get X, then X. When I have more money, then I'll be able to focus on XYZ. When I have more time, then I can truly focus on XYZ. When I look the way I want to look, then I can really focus on XYZ. Basically, it's deferring the action that you know you need to take now, because you're not taking into account what you do have. You're so fixated on what you don't have yet, what you want in the future. And the thing is, that can breed both discontentment and inactivity, because rather than you making do with what you have, which might be the very key you need to get what it is that you're wanting, instead you're putting off all action because you're making the conditions so that they can only be done in the future. And guess what? If you keep doing that every day, nothing will get done. In case you didn't know, I am a believer. I'm a Christian. So a lot of my references come from the Word of God. And it's interesting because you'll see in the Bible, Jesus would often ask them what they do have. He wouldn't focus on what it is that they're wanting or what the lack was or what was missing. He would bring their attention to what they did have, even if it felt small and insignificant. And so I just want to encourage you, maybe what you do have feels so small and insignificant, or maybe, the place that you're in, your present reality, feels lacking. But I want to remind you, what do you have? What is in your hand? And the thing is, not only will that grow gratitude in you, but it'll remind you, with the little, God can do a lot if you give it to Him. Don't discredit, don't discount the little that you do have. And also, don't discredit how far you have come. Don't be so focused on where you're headed, where you want to be, what's next, that you forget and lose sight of where you've been, what you came out of, how far you've come. And doing something with a little is better than doing nothing with a lot. Y'all, those words just encourage myself, okay? So those are the 7 things. I hope one of them at least encouraged you and met you right where you're at and was something that you needed to hear. If it is, let your girl know, okay? Don't keep that to yourself. Don't be all encouraged and not encourage me with that feedback, okay? Seriously, let me know if one of these things encouraged you. I would love to hear that in the comment, which one it was that resonated with you. And please share this with a friend if you know that, you know, they're on a journey of becoming everything that they were created to be, and that they could use a little pep talk along that journey. By the way, I didn't even say who I was. In case you're new here, my name is Sharina. Around here, I talk about faith, life, and entrepreneurship. I'm also creating videos about living intentionally and making the most of every day. So if that fits your boat, stick around, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, y'all. Babe, I'm done.